Gooseworks just posted on her Twitter 4 brand new teasers for episode 2 of the Amazing Digital Circus, all in the same day, and these tell us a lot more about the story and what's actually gonna happen, almost as if Gooseworks is trying to show us as much as possible without leaking every detail about the show. The first teaser that we got is one where we see Jax, Kinger, and Ragatha all at the Candy Canyon Kingdom adventure, and immediately the first thing I can tell is that the animation has gotten so much better. Even though the pilot episode was really realistic already, if you look at the photo, you can actually see that Ragatha looks a bit different, and then looking at everything else, you can tell that the animation quality has gone up. But actually looking at the photo itself, Jax definitely did something that upset Ragatha a lot, to the point she's pulling on her hair, and yet Jax just has a smug smile on his face as if he somehow didn't do anything wrong, but we all know that he definitely did something wrong, but we just don't know exactly what. And in the background, we can see that Kinger has more of a puzzled look on his face, probably meaning that he has no idea why Ragatha is mad and didn't see what actually happened between them. But what I'm assuming is that they all went on an adventure and they had to do something or collect something or complete some sort of objective, but Jax messed it up because he thought it would be funny to delay them or see everyone else get mad. And then, of course, Ragatha trying to complete the adventure would get really upset at Jax, and Kinger never really knows what's going on anyway, because if you remember from the pilot episode, there were so many moments where the circus members were speaking to Kinger and yet he just didn't respond or remember what they were saying at all, which is what the second teaser is pretty much showing as well. But looking at the first teaser, it's hard to tell exactly what they're doing. It seems like Kinger is behind some sort of ice cream sandwich and Jax is in front of some kind of candy cane, and it's kind of hard to tell what Ragatha is standing on, but the things in front of her do look like they could have some importance to the adventure that they're on. It looks like the pink box in front of her could be some sort of lever on the platform that she's standing on, and then the white things could actually be buttons, so maybe they have to crack some sort of code to get into the Candy Canyon Kingdom. And honestly speaking, now that more teasers are coming out for the show, I'm starting to think that it's possible that episode 2 might release even earlier than May, like Glitch said. They seem to be finishing everything so quickly, and they're now dropping many teasers with those screenshots. We've seen teasers before where it's pre-rendered versions of characters, like teaser number 3, where we saw Pomni putting her fingers together in a pre-render in Glitch's animation software, which made me assume that we're still in the beginning stages of animating some parts of the episode. But now that the teasers coming out are actually fully animated, we can maybe assume that episode 2 could release in early May, or it's possible to even have it earlier, like in April. But it could be impossible, just because we know that Glitch needs to release at least Murder Drones episode 7 before that happens, because they promised the Murder Drones fan base that 2 new episodes would come out in spring. And if they just drop Murder Drones for the Amazing Digital Circus, they'd be pretty much forgetting their original fan base, and it wouldn't be good for the fans, and it would also be a bad look for Glitch as a company, as they'd be forgetting their roots and not really supporting the fans that supported them in the very beginning. So my guess is that Glitch is getting close to finishing episode 2 and they want to release it earlier, but will release Murder Drones episode 7 first, and so we might have to wait anyways for episode 2. But this still does bring good news, because if they're finishing episode 2 early, sure, they may wait to release it, but it also means they can get started to working on episode 3, and then they'd be able to release episode 3 a month after episode 2, probably in June, and so we'd still end up getting quicker episodes, even though episode 2 itself might be delayed on purpose with the release of Murder Drones episodes 7 and 8. And we do know that the episodes are coming out quicker than Glitch's normal production speed, because when Murder Drones first released, it took them a little over a year to release episode 2 after the pilot episode had massive success. But if episode 2 of the Amazing Digital Circus does release in May, then it means it was way quicker than Murder Drones, because it would be only about 7 months since the release of the pilot episode, which is almost 2 times as fast as what Murder Drones was. And if they keep this up on an episode to episode basis, then that means we would go from every 2 months an episode from Murder Drones to now getting an episode every month for the Amazing Digital Circus, which means we won't have to wait so long in between episodes, and the hype will last much longer, and we'd be getting new content pretty much every 2 weeks, because we get a trailer and then 2 weeks later we get the full episode, and then 2 weeks later we get another trailer, and then it just keeps repeating from there. However, my guess is that it's possible that they might slow down the episodes just to make them as high quality as possible. But now looking at the second teaser that Gooseworks tweeted out, we can see a screenshot of Kinger in a much different pose than he was in the first teaser. At first glance, you can maybe assume that this is just a blurred and zoomed in screenshot from the first teaser, but if you look at his eyes, they're both looking outwards, whereas in the first teaser, you can see that his eyes are straightforward and looking towards Ragatha and Jax. And this motion blur can mean one of two things. Either Kinger is being flown or thrown around by something and the camera following him is blurring, or it could be that Kinger is just standing as normal and instead the camera is zooming in or out from him in a really fast way, causing the motion blur, but it doesn't tell us too much. Kind of like the third teaser we got, which was of Pomni looking absolutely dead tired, and we see again that it's inside of the Candy Canyon Kingdom adventure, and what I'm assuming is that all these backgrounds are similar because they're screenshots all from the same scene in the show. And in my theory of Jax messing up the circus members by delaying them from completing the adventure, it's possible that Pomni is also super annoyed with Jax, but she's just showing it in a different way by showing that she's exhausted from all the different things that they've had to do just to be ruined by Jax, and obviously a lot different than Ragatha because she was literally pulling her hair out. But the fourth teaser is the most interesting out of all of them. In this photo, again we see Jax with one of his weird expressions, but this time it seems like he's popping out of some sort of hole, which honestly I have no idea where that could be from. It could be possible that he's inside of the kingdom and that he climbed up a ladder that allowed him to get on top of the castle, but judging by the look on his face, he seems to know that he just did something wrong and he's trying to be sarcastically innocent with holding his finger on his cheek like that, which makes me think that episode 2 is going to be full of moments where Jax likes to ruin the adventure for the other characters and delay them, which may be why we saw that Jax was in a fast food costume in the trailer. Maybe Kane saw how terrible he was to the other circus members in the Candy Canyon Kingdom adventure, and so Kane punished him by forcing him to work in the fast food adventure. Or honestly, what could be possible is that he's popping out of this hole. Maybe it's a mine underground, or it could be a basement underneath the castle, or my craziest theory for this is that he could actually be popping out of a train. Maybe they're going on top of a train. You never know with the Amazing Digital Circus the different adventures that the characters might go on. And honestly, from all of these scenes, I'm assuming that they're all from the same minute, at least from episode 2, maybe having to do with each other, but the scene of Jax coming out of the hole and the scene of Jax and Ragatha pulling her hair out, they seem to be different events, so it may be true that they are getting close to finishing episode 2 if they're getting this far this quickly with the teasers as well. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video here.